I swear on my mother's 47 appendages. If you tell me to calm down one more time, I will personally rearrange your face holes. Fleet Admiral Zix Taran hissed, his voice sharp enough to cut metal. All four of his eyes narrowed to razor-thin slits, his translucent blue skin pulsing with irritation. Bioluminescent patches flashed in jagged, aggressive patterns across his exoskeleton like living warning signs. Lieutenant Commander Drav, unfazed, merely flicked his gill flaps in quiet amusement. With all due respect, Admiral, Drav started, his mandibles clicking with what could only be described as a smug smirk by Vexari standards. Don't you dare. Zix shot back, his tone pure venom. Consider a more measured approach, Drav finished smoothly, eyes sparkling with mischief. The command bridge of the triumphant subjugation, flagship of the Galactic hegemony's vaunted 7th Conquest Fleet, was eerily quiet. Normally the deck buzzed with the familiar mix of clicks, whistles, and watery gurgles that made up communication among the dozen-plus species serving the fleet. But now, nervous silence. Outside the viewport, 37 warships hung like sharks circling prey, drifting in the black void, their weapons primed, shield generators humming like distant thunder. All of them focused on a single, seemingly insignificant blue-green planet that should have been an easy mark. A planet that, 8 standard cycles ago, was labeled nothing more than routine conquest, and then everything went spectacularly sideways. Someone, Admiral Zix began, pacing the command platform with deliberate menace. Explain to me how a species that only recently figured out basic spaceflight managed to destroy 4 of our capital ships in under a solar rotation. The tactical officer, Krill, spoke up. A spindly Norvac whose species looked suspiciously like an upright praying mantis collided with a jellyfish. Krill's antennae quivered nervously as he cleared his throat tubes. The humans appear to have improvised, Admiral. Improvised? Zix repeated flatly, his tone drenched in disbelief. Yes, sir. They've repurposed their primitive orbital platforms into, well, kinetic bombardment systems. Crude, but effective. Zix's eyes narrowed further, the patterns on his skin shifting to dangerous red. Define unusual payloads, Lieutenant. Zix growled, folding his arms. Well, for example, they converted a Sir, the ecological management treaties make exceptions for Class 4 unpredictable species, Zix cut him off. Humans have now been reclassified. The bridge crew winced, understanding immediately. Class 4 meant unpredictable, highly adaptable, resourceful, and usually doomed. The Council reviewed the footage from the Stellar Dominance incident, Zix continued, voice dropping ominously. They redirected an asteroid, Drav. A small one, yes, but still. The bridge crew barely had time to process the statement before the reality set in. These primitive humans had weaponized an asteroid. Resourceful little primates, Drav murmured, almost impressed. Which is why we're going to erase them, Zix declared, squaring his shoulders. Prepare the antimatter cascade devices. Begin atmospheric seeding within the hour. Krill's fingers danced across his console in practiced efficiency. Sir, antimatter cascade deployment requires full synchronization across all capital ships. We'll need to transition to standard annihilation formation. Do it, Zix ordered. I want this wrapped up by next solar rotation. I've got a retirement ceremony to attend, and I refuse to be late because a bunch of dirt-dwelling mammals got clever. As the fleet began its slow, ponderous reorganization, An alert chimed from the sensor station. Trill, the gelatinous Mulunian officer who communicated through color pulses and subtle vibrations, shifted to an urgent magenta. Zix sighed, pinching the bridge of his snout. What now? The translator for Mulunian color speech hummed to life. Sensor Officer Trill reports unusual energy readings from the planet's northern polar region. Zix's exoskeleton pulsed dim blue in frustration. Define unusual. A power signature unlike anything previously recorded from human technology, came the reply. It's building rapidly. Zix's primary heart clenched. On screen, the main view screen shifted to a live feed of Earth's Arctic. At first, as if on cue, more ships emerged. Smaller at first, sleek, lethal, but quickly escalating to capital-class vessels, all rising from what had seemed like solid ice moments ago. How many? Zix demanded, dreading the answer. 20, 30, 40, and counting, sir. They've hidden an entire fleet under the polar ice, Krill reported, antennae drooping. And, based on signatures, they're at least as advanced as our own. Possibly more. The bridge crew could only watch as the human fleet, a fleet that should not exist, formed up in low orbit. The massive black dreadnought drifted to the front, unmistakably the flagship. Admiral, the comms officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. For the first time in his decorated, ruthless career, Fleet Admiral Zix Turon, conqueror of the Regelian Combine, subjugator of the Taeti Alliance, 3-time recipient of the Hegemony's Ruthless Efficiency Medal, felt a cold tendril of fear coil around his hearts. Put it through, he ordered, forcing his voice steady. The screen flickered, revealing the interior of a human warship bridge, unfamiliar in design, but clearly built for war. At the center stood a human male, tall, broad-shouldered, dark brown skin, short black curls, and eyes sharp with calm, quiet confidence. His uniform was simple, marked only by a silver insignia at the collar and a row of colored bars on his chest. When he spoke, his voice was deep, measured, maddeningly casual. Good afternoon, the human greeted with a slight nod. Captain Alexander Frost, United Earth Defense Force, Flagship Deterrence. I have to say, you've been keeping our orbital defense teams busy. Creative solutions all around. The asteroid redirect? That one's getting Jenkins a commendation. Zix clenched his mandibles so tightly it hurt. This is Fleet Admiral Zix Turon of the Galactic Hegemony's 7th Conquest Fleet. Your planet is designated for incorporation. Your resistance is inconvenient, but irrelevant. Frost's lips curled into a smile. Not the panicked grin of an outmatched primitive, but the confident, razor-edged smile of someone who knew exactly how much trouble you were in. About that. The second the transmission cut, Captain Alexander Frost finally let the mask drop. He collapsed back into his command chair, shoulders sagging, a long, shaky breath escaping his lips. Holy hell, he muttered under his breath. Did that actually work? Next to him, his executive officer, Commander Eliza Wu, looked 2 seconds away from bursting into nervous laughter. I think it did, sir, she replied, eyes wide with disbelief. I think it actually worked. Status of the suppression field? Frost asked, trying, and failing, to keep his voice steady. Lieutenant Olandera, engineering prodigy and proud architect of their jury-rigged miracle, beamed from her station. Holding steady, Captain. Their systems are compromised. Targeting's shot. FTL's offline. And they have no clue it's barely more effective than a fancy radio jammer. The bridge buzzed with quiet, tense energy. Commander Wu tapped her console, scanning reports. All 26 ships reporting ready, sir. The projectors are stable. Their sensors still read them as solid vessels with full power signatures. Frost shook his head, marveling at the audacity of it all. 26 ships, and about 400 holographic projections, he muttered, against 37 real warships, with tech centuries beyond ours. This is either the greatest bluff in human history, or the fastest suicide mission. To be fair, sir, Wu added dryly, they don't know which it is. Tactical Officer Dmitry Volkov didn't share the levity. His expression was grim. If they call our bluff, sir, we've got exactly 4 working railguns, 8 nuclear missiles, and whatever Jake and his lunatics can cobble together in engineering. At the back of the bridge, Jake Wells, the ship's quartermaster, weapons designer, and resident madman, looked up with mock offense. Hey, don't underestimate what we can accomplish with duct tape and spite, Commander. Wouldn't dream of it, Volkov replied flatly. You're exploding. Admiral Zix Turan read the human diplomatic proposal for the 3rd time, his eyes scanning every line for hidden threats, traps, deceptions. To his growing frustration, there were none. It was simple. Director. Withdraw immediately. Recognize Earth's sovereignty. Leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. Around him, the senior officers of the 7th Conquest Fleet waited in tense silence, watching his every move. Well? Drav asked finally, breaking the tension. What's the plan, Admiral? Zix exhaled, every one of his 137 cycles of life weighing on his shoulders. The plan, he said slowly, is not to die needlessly. A murmur rippled across the command chamber. Sir, General Vrex, the ever-aggressive ground forces commander, bristled. Surely you're not suggesting capitulation to these tricksters. Tricksters? Zix echoed, his voice sharp. Is that what you call a fleet materializing from nowhere? Technology disabling our systems? Intelligence ops so thorough they knew Drav's name and rank? He shook his head. No, these aren't tricks. This is a species that's been playing a very long game. And we walked right into it. Before Vrex could fire back, Krill spoke, his voice uncertain. Admiral, I've been analyzing sensor data since the encounter. There are inconsistencies. Zix's hearts quickened. Explain. Some of their ships show energy patterns consistent with real propulsion and weapon systems, Krill explained, antennae twitching. But others, the readings don't match. It's almost like they're not real. Projections? Drav guessed, eyes widening. Holograms? Sensor deception? Zix straightened, a spark of hope flickering. How many real ships? Krill's digits danced across his portable terminal. Difficult to say for certain with all the interference, but maybe 20 to 30 actual vessels. The rest, sophisticated projections. Vrex slammed a clawed appendage onto the table. So, we outnumber them. We should press the attack. We accept their terms, Zix declared. We withdraw immediately. Vrex looked mutinous, but said nothing under the Admiral's unflinching gaze. Prepare a formal response. Begin withdrawal procedures. I want the fleet gone the moment they acknowledge our transmission. The officers dispersed, leaving Zix alone with Drav. A wise decision, Drav remarked, watching the Admiral closely. Is it? Zix muttered, suddenly feeling the exhaustion of command. Or have I handed the hegemony its most humiliating defeat in generations? Think of it, Drav countered with a sly grin. as saving the hegemony from its first catastrophe in generations. Zix allowed himself the ghost of a smile. Live to fight another day, An old human saying, Drav confirmed. And very appropriate. Zix's gaze returned to the viewport, to the human fleet that should not exist, bristling with potential and dangerous mystery. A day will come, Zix murmured, when the hegemony regrets ever hearing the word human.